So this Q&A is designed for people who are interested in learning about stage hypnosis, whether that's just as an interest or whether it's something that you want to do for yourself, because both Matt and myself are running a 2-day course in central London in June about how to become a professional stage hypnotist, and yeah, flustered, how to become a professional stage hypnotist and how to, do the business side of things as well as putting on a really great show. So that's why we're here. That's what this little Q&A is all about. So if anyone has questions about what it's like to be a stage hypnotist, what it entails, and what we're going to be covering on our course, that kind of thing, then do feel free to post them in the comments there, and we will
Yeah.
endeavour to answer them as much
But
as we possibly
but I
can.
mean, I think let's make this so general as well. We're going to have a lot of people here who have no chance of coming across the UK, but I'm always
Yep.
I just love talking about what I do. So the comments can be very. You can ask anything about hypnosis whatsoever. I know it's always fascinating. I know whenever I get on a plane, if someone asks me what I do and I say I'm a hypnotist, we're going to have a good
Oh yeah.
conversation for a while after that. So I can see a couple of questions in there already. First of all, just to Tyson, I will say straight away, Tyson. You said, did you like Perth? I live in Perth. I know it doesn't seem like that because I seem to spend a lot of the time working on the east coast of Australia and internationally as well. But Perth is actually my home. So when I get a chance, I come back here and I live on the beach at Scarborough, which is nice. And hello to Jeff from Northam and hi to Sarah Hepburn as well. So getting back, there was a question there from Jackson. Hopefully Jackson is still there. And Jackson said, "Is hypnosis a mind trick?" Well, it's not like a mind trick in the sense of like a magic trick that it's a fooling thing. I mean, it's I guess when you say is it a trick? It's definitely a trick with your mind, absolutely. But really, you're leading people into being able to wrap their thoughts around something so much so it feels real in the moment. And if anyone's seen one of my shows, you'll know I'll explain, like we can quite easily cry at a sad movie. That's your mind doing the same thing. So we all have that ability to make things feel real in the moment. Now, obviously, when we do that on stage, we come up with some quite funny scenarios. So, which look completely out of context. But yeah, our mind does this all the time. So
Yeah,
let's
I'd
see.
say it's not so much a trick, as in, we're tricking the people watching it into thinking that it's real, but
No,
we're actually tricking the mind into believing that what we're telling it is true. So you could say it's a mind trick in
absolutely.
that way. But yeah.
Yeah. But we're not doing anything covert. Um, it's not like and I think that's kind of it's good to make clear. Like you're not trying to fool people, and in fact, you see everything that happens in front of you on the stage there. That we don't
Mm.
do anything before with the audience or anything like that. People who run stage hypnosis shows tend to do them in different ways. When I do mine, I ask, I just make an open invite to anyone from the audience who wants to join me on stage. So, from that
Yeah.
point forward, you see everything that happens in that process. Now I'm going to
It
go
was
down
good.
to Emma here.
I was gonna
Emma's
say,
got
yeah.
a lovely question there. And Emma said, have any of your audience been hypnotized in one of your shows? Look, this is a really nice question. I actually get this asked quite a lot. Um, I will tell you in like the 10 years I've been doing this kind of full time, probably only twice maybe. And the reason being is they've been people when I've talked to them afterwards, hey, no worries, Jackson. The reason is that when I've talked to them afterwards, it's been not specifically by accident. What they've done, they thought, I don't really want to come up on the stage, but let's see what happens if I close my eyes and listen to what Matt's saying and see what happens from that point. So that happened accidentally, very rare, but it will be with people who decide they're going to just see what happens if they're sat on the seat and go through the same process. The mind has this kind of disconnect from, okay, this is happening on stage anyway. So for a lot of people, it would be very tricky. But yeah, I mean, so that's a great question. I do get that one asked quite a lot. However, I would say though, with the power of suggestion, if I were to come on and say, please, if anyone if anyone accidentally gets hypnotized in the audience, put your hand up and I'll come over and I get you to open your eyes. If I said that, someone who has a high susceptibility to suggestion with that belief that that may potentially happen. That could actually happen from that
You're
suggestion.
kind of
I'm sure
setting
we
up
get a
for it at that point.
lot more people. Yeah, yeah. And I'll just say
I
hello
had
to a
that.
few other people joining us very quickly. Martin Langshaw, hello. Trevor David, hi. How are you? Um, and we will get you. Hi, Jason in sunny Wales there as well. Nice to speak to you. We haven't spoken
It is sunny
person yet.
today.
But
But yeah,
yeah.
I had a guy at
Yes.
one of my shows who he came up as one of the initial volunteers actually, and then decided that he didn't want to volunteer and be on stage. And then we carried on with the show, and I noticed halfway through that he had actually he'd actually gone into hypnosis, and he was kind of
Yeah.
vaguely going along with some of the, like
Yeah.
dancing suggestions and stuff. I was like, oh, we should probably just stop the show for a minute and go and sort this guy out. And yeah, so it could happen, but yeah, I think that was one of my very first shows. So it was
Right. Yeah.
a learning moment.
Yeah, and a lot of that not happening is in your, how you set up the show right from the beginning as well, of course, and the
Yeah,
expectancies of where that show happens, which is up here on the stage, right?
definitely.
Now we've got another question down there as well. Hey, Barbara, this is Barbara. So I've connected with Barbara a few times over here in lovely Western Australia. And I've got, has anyone ever regretted being hypnotized on stage? Well, I'd probably say in general, they probably have done, but certainly I've never had that experience with anyone who's taken part in my shows. And I think that's the reason being is I completely frame this as like, this is going to be a fun experience. I have no interest in embarrassing anyone. I want you to come up here. I want you to learn how the focus you get on this stage is not only fun up here, but that focus can also be used once you leave the stage to kind of reach your goals a lot easier than normal. So far from it, I get so many people who say to me things like, oh my goodness, I just came up. I just thought it wouldn't be possible for me. I came up, I can't actually believe this happened. So it's kind of like the other way, far from the regret. It seems to be more like the astonishment and the absolute, I can't believe I was able to do this.
Yeah, I think Matt and myself come from a very similar viewpoint when it comes to stage shows, and it's more about entertainment, but entertaining everyone, so including the people who are on stage as well, making sure that they have a good time, rather than there are lots of kind of old school stage hypnotists who they get people up there and pretty much just take the piss out of them
Yeah,
for
yeah,
everyone else's entertainment, which is
yeah.
it's the older way of doing things, but in more modern times, it's better that everyone has a good time, and that's 100% possible, with the shows. Assuming you're setting them up right, then it's generally fine.
Yeah, and also I like the idea that if I have an audience in front of me, at the end of the show, I want them wishing they had been up there, and there's obviously a chance
Exactly.
they'd love to come back and they'll join me on the stage next time. That's a much better outcome than kind of like doing this whole thing of like oh my goodness, it was hilarious, but I'm glad it wasn't me up there. I
Yeah.
genuinely want people to be absolutely disappointed they didn't take part if they didn't take part. So
Yeah, and it's a
um,
good business model as well because then you're more
yeah,
likely to be booked again next
yeah,
time.
sure.
And oh yeah, I can have you at my wedding because you're not going to make my nan do anything really ridiculous, just mildly
Now,
ridiculous.
I'm going to go to another question here. This is from Sarah Hepburn, who said, I've seen you use music as a tool using your skills from your DJing days. She thought it was a wonderful experience. Any thoughts on how people can use music as a self-help tool? So just going to keep reading this, especially in the mind hacking happiness realm. Yeah, absolutely. As some of you may know, I also do a lot of work in the keynote talk, the big presentations at conferences about the mind. And quite often I will speak about music. Music has this power to make us feel things. It's another way of suggesting things. And I always like to think like, what's your power tune? Do you have like that real power anthem, something that really makes you feel good? It could be the memories that are associated with it, or it could be like just the absolute, feel good feeling of every time you hear that, right? So allow that to be a soundtrack for anything you would like to feel happy about. Allow that to, I mean, you can physically put your earbuds in and listen to it and get those vibes back, right? Connect that feeling of happiness with that tune, bring it back whenever you'd like to. But you can also just literally kind of replay it in your mind as well. I for years used, and still occasionally do use, the opening riff of Back in Black by AC/DC as I walk onto stage. Now, after a number of shows of using that, I can hear that little tune, and that opening riff, dan 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 dan, like whenever I hear that now, that makes me feel fired up and pumped up because normally it signals me walking onto a stage in front of a few hundred people. So yeah, music is such a powerful tool, and it can generate such amazing thoughts. So I'd always say, yeah, try and use it for good vibes.
Definitely. There's a good
Yeah.
question there from Chelsea Morgan, which is they're stage shows in the UK with Dylan Lovegrove. Any tips for taking them internationally?
All right, let me just quickly scroll there. I'll say hello to a couple of people before I get to that. So hello, Barry Jones in Devon there. Hey, Keji Costa, who's just down the road here, someone. And Gillian there was hypnotized at the Fringe Festival, and that watched the video back. It was hilarious, good fun. So that's the kind of thing that we love to get from our people. So thank you so much for joining me on the stage there, Gillian. It was a pleasure to share the stage with you. And yes, so Morgan and Dylan, you do stage shows in the UK. Any tips for taking them internationally? Obviously, it's a bit tricky. We don't have too much backwards and forwards here, but for sure, there's a lot of admin and red tape and visa issues that you have to look into. But you know, I would treat that just like any other show that you would book anywhere. Now, you know, I happen to work overseas with different agents, cruise ships. I also occasionally will work in the UK as well. But you know, you just obviously have to work within all the rules and regulations of that allow you not just to, you know, have what you need to do to put a show on, the insurances and that kind of thing. You obviously need to make sure they're all appropriate for where you're performing. But you know, you need to make sure you have the right visa as well. You know, for me, you know, I flew up to Jakarta to do a show in Indonesia. That's the capital of Indonesia. And you know, that is a really big visa process just for one show. But you know, I will do that if we get booked for that kind of thing. Same with Thailand. I did a tour around Thailand, and that tour, you know, from the airport, I had to go straight to the hospital. I actually had to have blood tests and medicals as part of this temporary work permit. I had to do these few gigs in Thailand. So the tips are pretty much, it's however you would normally book a show anywhere around your normal area. It's the same thing. You need to obviously either engage the interest of people who want that kind of show, or actually, you know, look for places to put your show in to do that kind of thing. So, but if you want to give me any more background, please just message me privately, and we can go backwards and forwards. I'll give you a little bit more help on that. Cool. And
Nice.
what else we got here? We have Pamela here. I find your shows fascinating. I've been to 3 shows. Oh, you've been too embarrassed to go up, but you always wished you could get into the final bit of the show. Do you know what? I get a lot of people who, you know, with a little self-confidence, like, oh, I'm not sure I really want to get up and do this. You know, the show is a whole process. So I know there's, you know, the finale is always such a big, happy, amazing piece. But I think you'll find you will absolutely love that whole process right through. You know, you learn not only just to be able to switch off and relax and have more control of that once you leave the stage as well, but you also, you know, you're just going to end up with a massive smile on your face. But that whole process through all the different routines and those bits and pieces kind of get you to that point. So again, next time you come into a show, let me know, and I'd love to have you up there on the stage. So, hey, Craig Ballantyne there, Adam there as well. And let's go through a few things there. I'm just going down the questions here, Rory. Is that cool for you?
Yeah,
I'm not
no,
sure if they're
you're
coming
good.
up
You're
as
good.
easy for you.
I've got a couple as well. If there is a lull that some other people have asked as well.
No worries. I'm just going to go here. So to Barry Jones. In the US, it's $500 for a work visa. I have a green card, so it's not an issue. Oh, well, yeah, it's fine for you then. So, yeah, there are a lot of costs. Like I said, most of the time, it's not worth, you know, just trying to book a gig somewhere just because you happen to be there on holiday, because you will have to, you know, pay a lot of money for the actual
Yeah.
correct permits and visas. So.
That kind of links into a question we had from Gavin, which is about how do we follow licensing of local councils and authorities? How important is that kind of process?
Oh, it's absolutely of utmost importance. You want to make sure that wherever you perform, you have all the correct paperwork, because you know that if you're working this as a profession, you've got to be professional, and that's, you know, from the first inquiry to the last bit of paper. And you know, I know that when I do shows in the UK, and just to let Trevor know there, Trevor actually says, apart from the course in June, have you got any plans for gigs in the UK? Yeah, we'll hopefully put on some more later this year in the UK. I won't have time when we do this course, so unfortunately I'd have to get in and get out of London. Um, but yeah, with the UK, I've done tours in the UK, theatre tours and bits and pieces. The regulations in the UK are the most stringent I've seen anywhere, for the actual show part. We're not talking about the visa issues, but yeah, there is a lot of licensing you have to go to, unless it's changed in the last couple of years. I think you've got to apply for your license at least 28, 30 days beforehand. There's a hell of a document to fill out. The fee can be £100 to put that license in, whether you get granted it or not. So there's a lot of things to think about in the UK for putting those things on. But
Are there similar international rules?
I haven't come across them, to be quite honest. Certainly not down here in Australia, and any of the other places. Like I said, the main thing for me when I work internationally is obviously we check any local regulations to do with the show itself. That includes the insurances, which I have to have in place, obviously. But the actual regulations, like the licensing, I've never seen a hypno license anywhere I've worked in the world except the UK. Yeah, it still intrigues me. No worries, Morgan. No worries, Dylan. I hope that answered your question. Oh wow, sorry. Barry Jones actually came back and said it was $5,000 for a work permit in the US. So yeah, okay, it's a lot more to think about if you're trying to put a show on there, I guess. Adam, oh great, that's right. Yeah, you're coming to join us in June, which is lovely. Nice to meet you in person. And and Keji Costa is hi my friend, good to see you. Can you hypnotize me and transform me into a great surfer like you? I'm not. You may already be hypnotized if you think I'm a great surfer. I'm an average surfer who just enjoys it like the most amazing person. Yeah, and Dylan, yeah, UK licensing is tricky. Hey, Russell Waterman just joined us there as well. Yeah.
I've got
So what else have we got?
Another question. Feel free, guys, to stick your questions on here. Anything relating to stage hypnosis or even entertainment and hypnosis in general. Another one that we got was, what have you both learned from doing stage work that's helped you personally?
Oh, well, actually, do you know what? I mean, I think for me, having that, just seeing the way you frame certain suggestions and the words you use certainly makes you more attuned to how you speak to people, whether it's tone, whether it's in inflection, the pace, and obviously the words you choose, and that the effect that they can have. So yeah, for sure, from doing stage shows, you certainly learn that the words and how you're saying them really do.
Is that why people keep giving me like free upgrades for things? That.
You got the golden ticket there, have you?
Yeah, have this free stuff. Like, yeah, I'll take it.
All right. So yeah, feel free to put any more questions in. We will jump out of here once the questions have dried up. But like I said, it can be anything about what me or Rory do on the stage or off stage.
Another one that came through. What was the most surprising thing that ever happened or that you didn't expect to happen on stage?
This is a really nice question. I actually get asked this quite a lot in interviews. Actually, I do a lot of radio and newspaper and media interviews. I get asked this question quite a lot. So I had many years to think, because it does change over the years. But there's a couple of really lovely moments which I did not expect, and one of them was when I gave a suggestion that you will dance like no one's watching. It was part of a whole routine. But yeah, I was on a cruise ship. It was I know now to be a 70-something grandma, and when I said that, it's normally a funny routine because it's normally quite daggy. I don't know if you understand that word in the UK, but just a bit kind of silly. But when I gave that suggestion, this 70-something granny ended up getting down and doing some breakdancing moves, which obviously the crowd went wild. It was just, I mean, I lost it as well. It was just an absolute joyous moment. And speaking to her afterwards, her grandson, as he'd been growing up, had been a keen b-boy. So he'd always be like, "Come on, Gran, let's I'll show you some moves." So those moves were still there, which is lovely.
That's fantastic.
So what we got here, Dylan Lovegrove, how do you deal with resistance on stage? Well, Dylan, I think it's again, it's hard to know exactly what you mean, but I'll probably say resistance on stage is something you pretty much want to deal with before people get to stage, because I like to let people know, this is not a magic trick, right? And this is not something I do to you. It's a two-way process. We're going to work on it together, right? It's going to feel fantastic, but you've got to be an integral part. So there's no point coming up here to resist, because nothing's going to happen. It's just going to be a waste of a chair that someone else may have wanted to sit in. So I think you deal with that by talking to the audience. And that little fun part at the beginning, I really love chatting to the audience, explaining what hypnotism is and what we're going to do, and dispelling all those myths. And one thing is like, this is me and you working on this together. So I think if you add that into your shows, you'll see, if you are getting that on stage, you'll see that kind of tail off, I guess. So yeah. What have we got here from Sarah?
Questions are flying in now.
Yeah, it's nice. Interesting to know about what gets people in their careers. How do you know when you're a good hypnotist, and is it something you want to pursue? Look, I think it's something like, if you find something fascinating and you give it a go, and then you find you're fairly naturally attuned to doing that, man, then you keep doing it, I guess. I've tried lots of other things I was fascinated in. I always wanted to play the guitar. I really had this fascination of being like, initially I thought, when I was a kid, I was like, I'll be a singer in a band, front man. Then I realized I couldn't sing. Okay, all right.
That was me too, man.
Okay, yeah. Maybe that's how we all end up here. So then, I was like, okay,
you have to be a singer.
Lead guitarist next. Okay, so then I started having some lessons. I was like, this guy's showing me the things you need to do, and but I just didn't feel that naturally attuned to it. I've got other friends who can pick up a guitar and go crazy. Now I was lucky that, when I was fascinated with hypnosis and I started trying it, I just found I was kind of fairly, I don't know if it's the personality or the confidence, but I felt I found it fairly easy. I felt it fairly good. So I just kept doing it, and don't worry, your audiences and your contracts and your bookings will soon tell you if you're no good at it as well. That's for sure.
That's also true. Yeah, definitely.
Where we got here? Is this training a one-off, or would you consider coming to join Matt in Australia, Rory? Well, we've got to make a reciprocal deal on this, certainly, hey?
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. Definitely, it could be happening. We don't know yet.
We'll see when we can bring this man up here to come down here at some point. So I'm pointed up to the top of the screen. I don't know if you are there. I don't know if everyone's seeing you in a little window.
You're pointing at me on my screen, so I assume so.
Oh, good, perfect. All right, okay, good. Let's have a look. Here we go. This is a good question. What stops hypnotists from using their post-hypnotic suggestions for evil causes? How do you know that we do not use them for evil causes? Okay.
We make you forget that we've done
it. Simply, again, there's another kind of strange misconception brought on by strange movies and TV shows, which are just that, strange movies and TV shows, is that trust me, if you could get people to do anything you wanted to because you're a hypnotist, do you think we would be stood on a stage, stuff like that? I would probably much rather go and stand at an ATM, click my fingers and say, hey, you believe that money is mine. That would be a much easier way of me earning my money. So
hi, I'm the new bank manager. I'm just here to check your vault at the moment.
Yeah. So that evil hypnotist is a lovely cliche and a great Hollywood moment here and there.
Yeah. Again, as Matt said earlier, it's a completely collaborative thing. Like people who said like we're resistant and coming up on stage to try and resist it. Well, it's not going to work then, because they believe it's not going to work. So if you've got someone who you tell them to do something that you think, well, I don't know if they're going to do it, because it's probably like get up on stage and take off all your clothes and waggle your bits at the audience. Most people, unless they have a proclivity to do that naturally anyway, would probably just open their eyes and walk
so they're like, stage. Hang on, this is not the show I signed up for. Yeah,
like one in 10 people would probably do it.
Is that right? They're the stats.
Based on my own experience.
So Trevor's asking, what do you think about the link between stage hypnosis and hypnotherapy? Do you think they go hand in hand or are separate things? I for one think they go hand in hand, and this is really interesting because I know certainly when I started, 10 years ago, uh, there were, I would get a bit of pushback from hypnotherapists who were like, oh, it shouldn't be used for this kind of thing. And but these were hypnotherapists who hadn't actually come to see the show. Now, anyone who's seen my show is, there's such a positive message in the show as much as the fun and laughter we have. And the knock on from that is people then see you as someone, like, I really like the way this guy works and treats his volunteers on stage and is able to get them to a state of mind where they can use their mind to focus on things. So I'd love to engage this guy to help me focus on something I would like to achieve. And, of course, I do get many inquiries. And as most people know, I don't advertise any personal sessions. I do them every now and then, but I travel too much to many personal sessions. But I used to do quite a few. It was really interesting initially, that kind of, you shouldn't use it for fun, or I could never understand that. And let's have a look.
You do lots of group sessions for people as well, don't you? And
I do, yes. And actually, that's a way I can still put that help out there and use what I know about the mind and help a lot of people in one go. So, yeah.
The interesting thing that I found is as a stage hypnotist, as someone who does like street hypnosis and stuff like that, I get people coming to me saying, oh, I'd like some hypnosis, but I've been to hypnotherapists and they weren't powerful enough, so I came to you instead. It's like, oh, okay. So some misconceptions there, because obviously the state of hypnosis is hypnosis, whether for therapy or for entertainment. It's just down to who you're working with and the stuff that you're actually getting doing. It's interesting amount of stuff that's going on out there.
But I think it's in all walks of life. You can engage someone to do a job and they could do an okay job in any kind of profession, and you can engage someone to do a job and they do an amazing job. So I know some incredible hypnotherapists who just are busy just every single day, and I'm the same as you, Rory. I have inquiries from people who felt they haven't got the response from someone they've engaged in their work, but it certainly does go hand in hand, that's for sure. So I'm going to move down a couple more questions here, and we've got, I've got to say hello to Mark there. Not sure whereabouts in the world you are, Mark, but Mark says, playing devil's advocate, what's the routine you get your kicks out of? For me, I love, there's a couple of ones, I love big group routines where everyone's up dancing, there's bizarre movement going on. I think someone referenced it earlier, she would love to get up for the last bit of the show, and I think that last bit of the show is always, you've built up to this big joyous moment. So it just feels great when you've got that whole stage of people kind of like rocking, just feeling fantastic. And, and they're the moments which, apart from when I'm directing the suggestions, I tend to step to the side to let the audience, like take that whole thing in from everybody.
I'm personally, I really like routines that kind of demonstrate the power of it, like sticking people to things and, getting them to do things that they wouldn't ordinarily do. And when you get them to give you feedback on mic and they say the most random stuff, it's just like getting some interaction with them. That's just great because the audience tend to love it.
Yeah, it is. I mean, Rory, there's so many things which, the great thing is you can be just as amused, just as entertained as the audience are by some of the responses, even though you run the same routines many nights in a row. So,
you're always getting different responses. It's a fun job to have.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So Jonathan here says, "Hi, Matt and Rory." Hey, Jonathan. I'm not sure where you are, so let me know where you are if you can. Very excited to see you both in June. I'm hoping you're in the UK then. It's great. We'll look forward to seeing you there. What tips and tricks would you give someone who is trying to start off as a stage hypnotist? How do I get my first show? Well, that's a really, really long answer to give here. I will definitely be showing you how to do that when we meet in London on the course. But just a brief way, you have to go out and book your own shows. No, just by saying you're a stage hypnotist is unfortunately not going to make people rush to you and say, please come and do a show for me. Then you need to prove yourself to start, and so doing your first show, you take control, you get out there, you book something in, and you advertise it, you get people coming along, and that's the way you do your first show. You do your first show by doing it. And so
that's pretty much it, isn't it?
Yeah, but like I said, sorry, I just knocked my phone there. Like I said, Jonathan, when you're with us in June, I'll go through exactly this fantastic template I have for being able to do that. And yeah, I think you'll love it actually. So let me get a flick down here. Barbara, are there any female stage hypnotists? Yeah, actually, it was interesting. I was talking about this to someone today and said, you know, there are not enough female stage hypnotists.
No.
You know, it does seem to be predominantly male, but what's been lovely is that we've been seeing more and more females taking to the stage in the hypnosis guise as well. And I know in the UK there's 2 or 3 very high profile stage hypnotists in the UK, I would say. Would that be correct? So,
Yeah, there's a whole bunch in the USA as well. I think
yeah,
there might be
yeah,
one in
yeah, and
Australia.
yeah, there's probably, I think there's a couple. There might be a couple in Australia.
Mm.
I'm not sure if in Australia there's any professional stage hypnotists female at the moment. But I know there are definitely some who've tried to put on shows or have put on shows. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'd love to
But
see
yeah,
more females. And if there are any females watching who would like help getting into the profession, yeah, please contact me as well. So yeah. Okay,
you
let's
do
have a
find it is there are for some reason just lots more men doing it than women, but it's completely, you know, there is no reason for that. Similar
no,
to the fact that with hypnotherapy there seem to be slightly more women doing it than men. You know,
yeah,
why? Who
it's
knows? But
yeah.
it's anyone can do it. So
Yeah,
feel
but
free to.
the great and that's the great thing. It is that sometimes I get asked that bizarre questions like, when did you learn when you had this talent and you know like you had this power? Obviously, this is not a power you have it. It's a learned skill, you know. So and the beauty thing is you know anyone can seek out to learn it. It's just it's the nuances that make it that tricky thing, like being a great concert pianist. It's, you know, some people are able to take it to that level, and some people feel more at ease with that kind of thing than others. But yeah, the skills are out there to learn.
Yeah,
So yeah, I'm looking at Hope here. Hey, Hope, how are you? Let's have a look. Had quite a few clients who've been to your shows, Matt, and love the experience so much that they come to me for hypnotherapy. Oh, that's lovely, Hope. Thank you so much. That's lovely feedback to get, and I really enjoy hearing that because I genuinely try and push that message of, you know, use your mind to change, right? Use your mind to change. On the stage tonight, we're going to do that for a lot of fun, and you're going to leave feeling super happy. But this is lovely when I get people, you know, who approach me, or a lovely knock-on effect for other hypnotherapists locally, like Hope there. You know, it gives them such a nice experience that they would like to explore that more. So
yeah,
yeah,
and even the people who, you know, who don't come up on stage, even the people in the audience say, wow, actually this stuff is awesome. It's not scary at all. Let's go further with it.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We get that a lot. So, oh, sorry, I'm just trying to get to everyone here, and so we got Brock, who's in. Let's go. Where we go. Just going to scroll down a couple of things. We're trying to get through everything here. So hello to Brock. Thanks for coming to the show before. And Andy, there we go. Hi, nice to meet you in the UK over there. Any tips for pre-talk? Okay, so for people who are new to stage hypnosis, the pre-talk is the part of the show which is the pre-hypnosis part. So it's the talk that most hypnotists will do at the start of the show, which is possibly one of the most important things of the show because that, first of all, kind of lays out your skills, your likability, your rapport, your friendliness, and also breaks down any myths of what people might be thinking in the audience. And so I think for Andy, just a few things you need to hit are kind of things I just touched on there is, you know, you want to make the audience know that this is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have a great time. We certainly don't have any interest in embarrassing you because sometimes that is a preconceived conception. But if you're doing a professional show in this day and age, I don't see why you shouldn't be doing a show which is designed to make people feel fantastic if they take part. Also in the pre-talk, yeah, knock out a few of those common misconceptions. You know, there's some really strange ones there. It's going to control my mind. Will I remember stuff? Will I be asleep?
Will I be a
Will I get
chicken?
stuck? Will I get stuck in hypnosis? Are you going to turn me into a chicken? Yeah. So I think if you cover, you know, you cover all the preconceived misconceptions, and you can easily think of those what they are yourself. Or again, you can private message me, and give you a nice little list of those. But yeah, if you can, dispel those, make everyone feel comfortable that you're going to have fun with you on the stage. And I also like to get a bit of movement in the audience as well, get them to do a couple of things, a fun couple of little exercises if we can, if we have time. And by doing that, I think the crowd starts to feel like they're taking part in something, and that kind of, I think that makes it a nice transition from like, hey, yeah, this felt good, and now, yeah, I'll come up onto the stage as well. So, yeah, I think all those things are very important in your pre-talk.
Yeah, breaks the initial inertia, but it's great just to let them know who you are, because they might not know you, and some people can worry that the hypnotist is a scary figure, and they're not likable and all that kind of stuff. But most hypnotists, stage hypnotists, like specifically, are really nice, really fun, and it's something.
And I will say to anyone, I will say to anyone who is thinking of getting into this, and I think you asked me on this a previous interview, Rory, is that you have to be a people person. You have to like people. I thoroughly enjoy connecting with people. I thoroughly love talking to people, meeting people, and I think that is a real key, because your props are your people. As a magician, you have a couple of trunks full of different effects and props and bits and pieces, but our props are simply the people in our show. So you have to be someone who loves people. I think that's a prerequisite. Mark saying, Tanya Collins in Australia, over on the East Coast as well, is one of our female hypnotists over here. And what else? Brock was in Scarborough at one of my shows here. What's the most awkward thing that's happened on stage? That's quite an interesting question. Probably more awkward for me than for anyone else, and that was when someone who at the time believed they were an alien, and I was asking them to demonstrate their equivalent of a handshake on their planet. And now, for most people who know me, I'm quite a tiny person, right? So most people are big, but this big guy, his equivalent of a handshake was he basically leant down and then licked my head from front to back. So I'd say, that was awkward for me, but was obviously a hell of a lot of fun and laughter for the audience. They thought it was hilarious for some reason.
So have wet wipes handy if you're a stage hypnotist.
Trevor David, I don't think women like wearing the top hat and cape. Yeah, that's interesting. Me neither. Okay. Thanks, Barbara. It's been lovely having you part of this chat here. And Glenn, we got to pay that. When starting to book in your own shows, would you say having a social media page, YouTube channel already set up would help? What type of material routine should you include on it? I think, absolutely. You need some kind of social media presence, but don't worry, because you have to start somewhere. People will not attend your show simply because you have a great social media presence. It helps, and as you go along, you will develop that, because more people who come to your shows will start to want to connect with you. But you can market just like everybody else, whether that's offline or online. And there are very many ways to get free advertising, free marketing, even in your earlier shows. So, it's certainly not a prerequisite, and everyone has to start somewhere. And, myself, Rory, I think a lot of people do put like, oh, I've got 10,000 followers, I've got 15, I've got 20. Well, I've only got 2,000, I've got whatever. It really doesn't play into the equation that much. So
no, but people do like people do like to watch stuff. They like a bit of social proof to see that you can actually do what you're saying you can do. And whether that's if you haven't done a stage hypnosis show, obviously you haven't got a video of you doing a stage hypnosis show in order to book your first show. But if you're doing some street hypnosis stuff, get a video of that, put it on YouTube, then stick that onto your website, your Facebook, or wherever you're marketing from. That's helpful. But you don't need to rely on it and fill it straight away. It's something to build in later on potentially, but don't worry too much at the start.
Absolutely. Perfect. But I mean, video is definitely key. It's really nice to see the video up. So when you start getting things, and that's why, and anyone who comes to my or our training in June, I'll tell them, from your very first show, you record every show, and even in your first show, you're gonna have some real nice little gems which will then help you, book further shows. So
And it's not a massive
And what,
outlay. It's not like you need to get a professional camera or anything because you've probably got a smartphone and that'll do.
yeah. And Glenn also asked, what type of material routine should you include on it? I guess it just depends on your kind of show, the kind of person you are, the kind of market you're wanting to attract. So that will differ kind of fairly. That's a fairly broad one to answer without knowing all that. But you're more than welcome to private message me and I'll help you out with that. And oh, hi Kelly, nice, thank you so much. Brock Westaway, who's your dad and what does he do? That might be because my parents were here recently and yeah, they have been on my social media. My dad is in his 70s, he's 76, and we got him at a skateboard this time. I think last time, what do I do with him? We taken him indoor skydiving, taken him surfing. So he's obviously retired now. But he was for most of his career, like up until he retired, he was a carpenter cabinet maker. But he started life as a roadie for a band in the 60s and worked with many famous bands in the 60s. And it was through him that I had my encouragement to move into the entertainment, and he always helped me right from the age of 15 when I started DJing at the age of 15. He was the one driving me from gig to gig because I wasn't old enough to drive at that point. So he's always encouraged me as my mum as well. So
Nice.
Anyway, and
I've got
Andy
a couple of other questions.
Oh yeah, sure.
So age, is there a upper limit or for stage hypnotists, or can young people be good stage hypnotists? That's just around the mark.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think young stage hypnotists will find their own audience. I mean, I still do universities and things like that. I was a university just this week actually over in Ballarat in Victoria. But I think having someone who's young, dynamic, and really connects with that audience as well is fantastic. Again, I think you take a lot of experience as you go along from your life and dealing with people. But I always say, the stage is a great place to learn as well. So yeah, I don't think it matters. I've seen people come into this young and old. So it just comes down to your will to work and make it success, and your drive and doing the right thing, I guess. So and Jules, hey Jules, nice to meet you. I do know Jules, and sorry you joined late. That's all right. I think we are wrapping this up in a minute, but this hasn't been covered. No. Do you change your show for the minors? Now, is this minors as in people who work on mines, or is it minors as in under 18s? I'm not really sure. I'll go with the under 18s. And if we,
you have done some shows with people that work in the mines, though, haven't you?
Yeah, I do, and I do. I quite often now. This is interesting. Where I'm geographically placed, there are a lot of mining companies in Australia. So occasionally I will get a call to fly 2 or 3 hours into the absolute middle of nowhere and entertain the guys who are on site for a few weeks at a time. So
are any of the miners?
There's no minor, no. But so for that, to answer Jules' question, for people who work in mines, okay, sorry, she's clarified that. No, I don't. No, I mean, I just choose routines appropriate to the audience, wherever that audience is. Obviously during my Fringe Festival show, that's for the public. It's a very broad, dynamic show, has routines which are designed to be kind of reflective of the moment and what's going on. And then in my corporate work, which is a lot of my work, I do have a whole selection of routines I will pull from. And again, when I'm talking to my corporate clients beforehand, we working out, okay, what's the makeup of your audience, the age range, their background, that kind of thing. Then I'll pull appropriate routines. So same thing for the mining site. But no, I don't have anything specific for the miners. But it is a broad group of people, like there is a broad group of people in any industry that I would work for. So yeah.
And with
Yeah.
minors, with young
Minors.
people, obviously, then
Yep.
you're tailoring it to that as well, because there are some people who want an adult show and for, more interesting and sexualized and,
Well, I
overtly
don't do that. Yeah.
potentially
See,
inappropriate. Some hypnotists
yeah,
do, but obviously
yeah.
you don't. But yeah, if that was
No.
something that people did, then that would be a case of, if there are children in the audience, don't do those
Yeah,
routines. It's
absolutely.
common
Yeah,
sense,
yeah,
really.
yeah, yeah. No, I think what I, yeah, I guess there's a few people doing this, but I kind of go into my shows like every show is family friendly. That doesn't mean it's for kids. In fact, it's not. But kids can come along and they'll enjoy it. They might get all the references and stuff like that, and they'll
Yeah.
thoroughly enjoy seeing mum, dad, older brother, uncle, whatever up on stage. And that's why it's nice when we do our kind of public shows that you can open it up to a wider audience. But
Mhm.
yeah, but occasionally I'll do a show for under 18s. I never allow under 18s on the stage which has over 18s in it. But obviously I
Mhm.
do some shows, some school shows occasionally, and some youth group shows, youth week shows, that kind of thing. And in that, I do change things up slightly just in the makeup of the show, and there's a few things I arrange, not specifically the content itself, but just in the way I bring people up on stage, make sure things have been signed off by guardians and bits and pieces like that. So yeah, that does change.
Again, I suppose that will differ depending on where you're doing a show as well. Because in the UK, you're not meant to hypnotize people on stage who are under 18.
Right.
Just
Yeah. Yeah.
another piece of the red tape. But that will again
Yeah. Yeah.
potentially
And
vary
and
from
and,
place
and
to
that's the
place.
thing is, I mean, like any show I do, unless I'm being booked specifically for it, like I say, I wouldn't even entertain the idea of having anyone under 18 up there. So.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go with Sarah. Here's the next one on the list here. Love the positive to your shows, Matt. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you. I remember seeing a show in the 90s and it was at uni. It was horrible because of the way maybe people do things a bit nasty or beyond embarrassing. Would definitely recommend the workshops from you to spread that positive mentality in the field, in this field world. Oh, thank you. Sorry, it wasn't a question, but it was actually a nice little comment. So I really appreciate that, Sarah. And I hope things are going well for you as well. It's always nice to bump into you. And
I've got one more
Jules,
question
no
I
worries.
found.
And okay, I'll just answer this one very quickly down at the bottom. And
Oh,
that is from Kelly saying, when do you come back to Queanbeyan? As soon as we find some time to book another show in there. That was a lot of fun. I do remember that one. And yes,
I think we're ready for final question.
yes, please.
Wrap
Yeah,
it up. Cool.
yeah.
So, very last one is, what is the best thing about being a stage hypnotist?
Oh, the best thing.
You can have a couple
It's
if you want.
is you're going to allow me a couple? Okay.
Oh, yeah, we got time.
Okay. I I love getting the feedback, not only directly from the audience with that wall of laughter coming at you and just like these guys are loving seeing this, but that buzz that buzz afterwards. Now it's interesting. During my 34 shows I did recently at the Fringe World Festival here in Australia, I would kind of duck out quickly at the end so I could go and shake hands to everyone coming out the audience, or
Oh, nice.
at least a few as we come along. But I would sometimes quite often get stuck behind some of the audience members coming out. So it's funny because I would then hear them talking about what they'd just seen, not
Oh,
knowing that I
nice.
was like actually behind. So it was always
Yeah.
lovely to hear, the buzz in the air. And there is you put on a really positive show, which makes people laugh, which makes the volunteers who've taken part just feel fantastic about themselves and had such a great time. That buzz is great. And quite often have people come up to me afterwards and say, do you know what? I haven't seen my partner laugh like that in years. They've been going through a tough time. Just an absolute relief. So that is definitely one of the absolute gold pieces I get from this fantastic career. The other thing is I've been very lucky enough to travel with it, and I travel a lot with my shows. So that's been nice. I've got to see a lot of nice places through doing this professionally.
Awesome. Cool.
Hey!
So I guess that's about it. We one man out
So,
with all the questions. Well
ooh.
done. So if anyone is looking to come along and train with Matt and myself to learn to be a professional stage hypnotist, then come along and see us in London this June. It's the 1st and 2nd of June. Even if you haven't got any experience doing hypnosis yet, you can come along. We're doing a day before that, so you can get some experience with the basics as well, if that's something that you want to do. So people from all different backgrounds, even if you're a hypnotherapist and you want to learn a bit of stuff about marketing your business, business, you know, all that stuff's applicable as well. And you never know, you might later on want to do stage hypnosis too. Hey, who knows? So that's happening on the 1st and 2nd of June 2019, and we'd love to see you all there. But thank you very much for the questions, and it's been awesome.
Oh, it's been lovely chatting. Thanks to everyone who dropped in. I know some people have already left now, but it's been absolutely wonderful chatting. And yeah, thanks, Brock. I'll see you in Scarborough somewhere. That's someone very local to me here. Thank you much. Thank you to Andy there as well. I really appreciate you dropping in. Cheers, Mark. Great to meet you as well. And yeah, our Sunday's just coming to an end over here. I know, Rory, you've got plenty of Sunday left, but
Oh yeah.
I'm going to enjoy being at home for a weekend, which has been amazing. And
Nice.
oh, what's going on here? I was just to say hello to Lily. You had me under hypnosis. I talked about the lobster going through the hoop. It was on the video. So talented. We have some very funny, interesting things happen at my shows. Thanks so much, Trevor. I really look forward to meeting you in person. Yeah, and anything you want to know before we get to that point, yeah, just feel free to send me a message. Cheers, guys. I think that is it.
Awesome.
Over and out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Done.
Ciao, ciao.
All right, dude. Cheers. See ya.
See you later.